Calling the meeting to order. Ben Gadholm. Pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America,
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. First order of business is review and approve the meeting minutes from May 16th.
Which year?
Yeah, May 16th, 2024, our last meeting. Nancy put these out quite a while ago. I have no issues with them. You were there, you have no issues. You weren't there. You normally don't. Yep. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, meeting minutes are approved. Okay, the APAC, even though it's been since May, I have not, the one meeting that the APAC had since the last time we met, I was unable to go to. You said like did you go? Do you want anything from there you want to talk about?
Sure, Matt Jacob, new manager. The new county administrator was present. I didn't personally introduce myself. There was discussion about, so all this materials for the solar panel and solar project are all, I understand, on site. There was, I have to say this because it was amusing, there was question, there was concern that it was going to be exposed to weather. That was kind of.
The materials?
Yes.
Yeah, they've just been sitting outside
Good time.
since, yeah.
And then,
Well, it's not exposed to weather after it's put up, but
Correct.
just sitting
it's just
there.
it's all there. So every element of physical materials are on site and they're trying to bid out the labor aspect of it.
Okay.
And it was explained by Mr. North Graves, who will be deputy manager. And it wasn't indicated.
Is that an
That was
acting or is that,
a temporary thing to oversee transition.
do you know?
It wasn't alluded that it was temporary, just that he would be the deputy manager. So, and then as far as the solar panel project, they have until some point in May, I think it was the 20-something, 22nd, you might know.
It's May 11th.
Hello,
The deadline, yeah.
to get it done. Or the FAA will come in once I'm back.
Yeah, it'll be very bad.
Oh, so we're well past May 11th.
No, next
Next
year.
year.
Oh, we got an extension. Before I left, I applied for an extension,
Okay.
the period of performance extension, and it was granted.
And then it was discussed that the bids that they were getting were $1 million over the last estimate that they had to do the project. And what I didn't understand is if they have all the materials there currently, that means that that's $1 million in labor alone. And then Amy Gray with Stantec corrected, saying it was closer to 300,000. And then it kind of went a little bit down from there. So it's someplace between 200,000 to 300,000 more than the original bid.
Yeah, which is reasonable.
Yes.
So this is and I'm sorry, again, I wasn't there. This is a separate bid just for the labor, not for the materials. Okay.
So the money that was outlaid to, I don't remember the name of the solar company.
Pine Tree
So that's in bond currently, and the bond company is trying to find
Cheap ways to get out of it.
company to do it.
Interesting.
Cheap it out. Yeah. So they had the opportunity to use Conlabs or Maine Commercial Solar. And they said it'd be cheaper if we had Pine Tree do it. So we'll manage the project, but we'll have Pine Tree complete it. The problem with that is after the project, the project, first of all, isn't going to perform how it was intended to perform. There are no optimizers on panels. So the output isn't going to be what it's supposed to be. But after Pine Tree goes defunct, then who do we turn to for issues regarding warranty? There'll be nothing there. So Pine Tree is suing the county and trying to get the job back. But they defaulted, the county went through the right steps, all the notifications were sent out, all of the negotiations that had to happen, and Pine Tree just believes it's their job. Their equipment is still on site, that little red lift that's over there, my apologies, is Pine Tree's equipment.
That's not delivered equipment, that's stuff they were going to use to.
Correct, yeah. So they didn't take it outside, they left it there. And all the other stuff was repossessed. So,
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a huge mess. So Comm Labs and Pine Tree submitted bids, but they were very high.
Well, yeah,
So the surety said, we need to make the final decision, we might use Pine Tree to do it, and, because they have the knowledge of the array, but it's gonna form probably 30 to 40% under what they projected, so the $1 million that whatever the amount of, I don't remember anymore. There's more than that, but I don't remember. But, anyway, so the county's not gonna see the return on its investment that they originally had planned for.
that's unfortunate. Sometime not in a meeting, tell the story of one of my programs, the company went back in the middle of the process. And I happened to be overseas at the time, but, okay. Anything else?
That was bulk of it.
Okay.
And now that we do county administrator pretty soon, apparently.
Well, I read
He
that,
was there.
yes, well, but there's news that just hit today that they're asking him to resign or be fired.
Because he put a county department head.
Yes, you guys are a go.
We're go. It's working. Thank you.
Have a good time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, toodles.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Hey,
party
hey,
foul.
hey,
Let's just have it.
You said toodles.
Yeah, so I just read that news.
What happened?
Apparently, and all of this is secondhand, and I have no idea, but apparently the new county administrator put one of the department heads on, or tried to put one of the department heads on a performance improvement plan. That person went and complained to one of the county commissioners, and the county commissioners wanted to fire the new county administrator. That's my understanding.
Moving right along.
Moving right along. Yep. Okay, interaction with other organizations. Jeremy, I've got this as you have any other?
I actually met with Ralph from the FAA the other day,
Okay.
came down and Marina, went for a boat ride. And so it was all unofficial stuff, but he had met with the new manager and he expressed his concern about what's going on with the solar and with the turmoil within the county, I would be extremely surprised to see it get pulled off by May.
Yeah,
The way things
that's
are going. Yeah. Which sad, everything's here,
right.
but it's up to the leadership of the county but it doesn't sound like, from my experience, it doesn't seem like they have the leadership abilities to be able to make crucial decisions timely.
Logistically, how does that work with materials? Do they repo those and sell them?
No, the county paid for them, so we own them.
So Jeff alluded that the FAA wants money back. So
Yeah.
how is that?
I would guess they could sell them, at the point when who's out there purchasing secondhand solar panels
So
and
how is-
racking that's been on the weather for a year.
So how then is that rectified with the FAA as far as the monetary aspect of
It's
it?
a check. Counties have cut the FAA a check.
Yeah, the count, well, I mean, I'm not involved in it, but I think from a contractual perspective, the county owes the money regardless.
Yeah.
It's not whether the airport can get the money out of it, the county owes the money. So that would be, that would be it. Anything else?
No.
Okay.
I have one last question, and just so I understand. So the bond company, what is their motivation to just go to the lowest bidder? Or to go to anyone that's able to do it? What's their motivation?
Because there's only $600,000 or $700,000 left in the original amount of the what Pine Tree was awarded. And so the materials were all paid to a third party because there was some trust issues, there was some bad press ahead of time. So the county required that, and the Pine Tree had to have a surety backing them. So the surety signed on thinking, oh yeah, they're gonna put it together, everything's gonna be fine. So it didn't go fine, they spent a lot of money that they shouldn't have spent. The surety actually signed off on checks that they shouldn't have signed off on, that gave money to Pine Tree. Pine Tree wasn't supposed to be paid ahead of time, so there's hundreds of thousands of dollars that are missing. So the surety now has to, they said, yeah, we'll make everything right. To do that, it's gonna cost them several $100,000, like $400,000 to $500,000. So by hiring a company that may not be around tomorrow to get a little bit more money, that's how they benefit from that. So they, in the contract, it said that the surety would make the final decision. And that's because it's in the surety's best interest to do that. Because they could hire even the lowest bidder, but they'd have to pay a few $100,000 out of their own pocket. So they're trying to mitigate their losses by doing whatever they can to get it done for as cheap as they can.
Some of the contractual relationships are very complicated.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah. So they've hired Beacon Management to oversee. So they came up the last week I was there, and I'm like, here it is. There, good luck. So they were getting quotes from Pine Tree and a few other places. And so they were going to be the management. So they would be up here with vests on, being, pointing new directions, put this together. Rip out all the infrastructure they put in wrong, bury the hole, dig it again, so that the surety's interest is just to save money. It's not protecting the county's interest. It's trying to get out of this project with as little exposure as possible.
Yeah.
Thank you for explaining.
Okay. That's all, moving on to unfinished business of my confusion over how to interpret all the different data about the airport usage. And I tried to make this as straightforward as I could. But I don't understand. So I had a whole series of individual questions. So we're using 3 different units or terms: boardings, enplanements, and movements. And is a boarding and an emplanement the same thing?
Yes.
Okay, so those are the same things, they're just
If
used.
you board an aircraft, you were enplaning. So there's enplaning and deplaning. So KPR keeps track, or everybody keeps track of their enplanement and deplanement numbers. So when you board an aircraft, it's enplanement. So boarding and deplanement would not be the same thing, but boarding and enplanement is the same.
Okay, so when I look at the data, and this chart is the one you gave me.
Yeah.
You gave me most of that data, hold on.
I think this was in the master plan. update?
No, the master plan is different.
That's what-
Yeah, that's kind of the reason that I'm confused. And I do have, from going back multiple, that's the regret presentation that I'm working from. And Lauren, that's what
I have,
oh, you have it, sorry.
I don't think, unless you updated it in the last.
No, I did not update it. So, this slide is what I'm looking at right now, because that's sort of the basis of a lot of the confusion. If I had a brain, I would have put page numbers on it. So, Jeremy, what you gave me months and months ago was the blue line, that's the RKD boardings, the CA enplanements, and the Penobscot Island Air enplanements. You did not give me this Telford. That Telford is the difference between what I looked at with the blue line and what got put into the master plan. If you add the blue line in Telford, you get the master plan data that look like that.
Very cool.
But my confusion is, so at least when you and I talked about this way back when, my impression was that these were different ways of counting and that they were not additive, that I didn't take the RKD Rockland boardings and add the CAN employments and the PIA employments. Is the idea that those should be additive?
Yeah, each different entity over there tracks and reports their appointments. So that should be all included. So I don't even know where
Hold on.
Telford data came from, so I never read that. Maybe I never went digging for it.
So where, if the non-blue lines are particular airlines, what's the blue line?
Rockland boardings, Cape Air appointments. So obviously Cape Air has only been here since 2010, 2011. So everything prior to that would have been Down East Airways, would have been US Airways, would have been, there's one other airline. So that would be, so PIA,
I think
obviously.
Telford is down east, isn't it?
Telford was Down East, but Down East is more of a FBO and not a commercial operator. So US Airways used to operate at Piedmont was the other one. There was Piedmont, US Air, was Piedmont, Piedmont, were they US Air? Were they US
They
Air?
weren't here when I was here.
Okay, Colgan was the other one, Colgan had 1900s.
Colbert.
Yeah, Colgan, and so those are the other airlines.
But when you gave this to me, this was actually like a spreadsheet handwritten. It wasn't the arcade.
Oh, was the table?
Yeah,
Yeah, so I got the table just off from, Jeff basically created the table, I just continued it, adding every year's data. So I don't know, that was something that was actually provided by Cape Air, if it was the handwritten one. And then Jeff would type it into a spreadsheet, and then I would continue that. That'd be the end of the manager report.
Why
Yeah.
is PIA not PIA did not pick up until 2015-ish? Because they were here back into the early 90s.
I don't know. I don't know if that was a condition, a thing of their certificate, if something changed where they were then required to report. I don't know if it's a certain volume or, that's as far as my report went back.
well, so if that's as far as your report went back, and then we add this, and we just add that to it, then but they were here for longer, then that's gonna distort the entire concept of whether or not we have increasing or decreasing flights, or just keeping solid.
I feel like just going off of operations movements is just the most straightforward way to go. Because that's just across the board, universal definition of.
And yeah, so I think that makes sense, because there always seems to be one more piece of information that's either not there or not accounted for properly. So the ones, when you talk about aircraft movements, that's the stuff that comes out of the guard data, yes? Okay. So that should be, in theory, and forgive me for talking like this, Ed, it's me trying to make these things actually seem to work. So all the other data is reported. That's what somebody said. It might be right, it might be wrong, somebody said it. But the guard data is coming out of the actual system from radio transmissions and an algorithm that says but movement still isn't takeoff landing. It's, I mean, that could be on
It is,
It's-
so that, yes.
Yeah. Well, I didn't mean,
it's not just takeoffs and landings. It's also taxiing and
Not
picking up
taxiing,
girls
it's takeoffs, landings, actual in-flight, and then any reporting in
Okay.
communication with your traffic management system.
okay.
so many movements create an operation.
Is a movement the equivalent of is one radio transmission, one movement?
Not necessarily.
No, because it's counting radio transmissions,
Right.
right? I mean, the bottom line thing it's counting is radio transmissions.
So let's just make sure we're comparing Kiwis to Kiwis. So like the the resources that FlightAware uses are 5 different sources, primarily the ADSB, along with navigation service provider, like 4 other things. So that's like, it's pinging movements from 5 different directions, meaning that's how they can be as accurate as they can.
Okay. So that's beyond, so that's,
When did the guard system start? When was that put into?
I wanna say like 6 to 8 years ago.
well, the data that I've got goes back to 2015.
But I'm trying to understand, like, at what point could we be more reassured that it's more accurate with the guard system, so.
Yeah.
Never, not even now. Like, it's widespread reported throughout the state that the guard system has not been reliable for the past year.
This is why this stuff was expensive, because that's how, I mean, it's just accurate, you're paying for all of that, those resources to be pulled into getting these numbers. I've asked for 15 to 17, so they're putting that together, just because that's giving us a truer sense of what the
Okay.
applications were based on, or not. And just for fun, if you look up RKD on Wikipedia, so let's just use 2020, because that's the thing I have the most resources for. 2020, FlightAware shows 13,729. So we'll just say 38 flights a day, 2020. Movements per the data that you got,
Yeah.
Dave,
Yes.
27,000 in 2020, so an average of 75 flights a day. Wikipedia was reporting, and someone's putting that data into Wikipedia. Wikipedia doesn't have the conditions.
Right.
They reported 107 a day, so 38,000. So you've got 13,007, 27,004, and 38,008, which is a treble inflation from the actual flight data.
Does Wikipedia credit where they get their data from?
Do, and I didn't find
But
a footnote for that led to anything that made sense.
Wikipedia is structured so that anyone can go in and read.
I totally understand that, but there's reasons that things are averaged out so that they
Right.
match other things.
Right. So
Without
Is-
the,
is
go ahead.
in trying to figure out what is the data that we should be concerned with, is the argument you're making basically, okay, guard data is better than the enplanement data, but FlightAware is better than guard.
Absolutely.
And enplanement data really is irrelevant. It shows you trends, but there can be 9 people on a plane, or there could be 1.
Right, but in terms of whether the town should be concerned as to whether or not, operations are going up or down, and whether or not you're making an argument that, to the FAA that they're going up or down or staying steady, those trends are really much more important than the underlying, is the number just right? Because over time, as I would think over time, that would all average out in terms of the number of people on the plane and stuff. Except that the guard data is showing decreased numbers of movements while we're showing increased numbers of enplanements. And I'm wondering whether that indicates that we have bigger planes with more people.
The reason these numbers in my mind are important
Yeah.
is they were inflated for a reason. They're inflated on applications for federal funding. So falsifying demand pressure on the airport is what triggers funding to support the demand that doesn't exist on this airport, on a particular airport.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I agree entirely with that.
Okay, just checking.
No, I agree with that.
And prior to the guard system, it was a lot easier for them to do that.
Okay,
Just for fun also, because I like doing this. Portland Internet, so in 2017, the data that you have, Dave, was for 46,900 over the course of the year, so that's 129 a day. Portland International Jetport in the same year came in at 137 planes a day. So, just saying.
yeah. I'm sorry, the data that we have from guard or from FlightAware?
From whatever Jeremy got from whoever you got it from, and then gave to you, that was 46,900.
Okay. Okay.
And Portland had 50,000 a year.
So FlightWare is, if you're, if we work on the basis that that is the best. First of all, a question on, you said they pulled it from multiple sources. What are the sources that they're pulling? Do you know?
I do, and I sent that link to you, and I have it here also. Air navigation service providers, and then there's a description of what that is. FlightWare's ADSB network, which is their most used probably. ACARS data link, VHF or SATCOM, something called Arion, which is space-based ADSB network. And there's explanations of all these, but I emailed this link to you so you can read through it, because you probably
I didn't
want to be
remember.
interested in it.
I am, but I didn't remember seeing the link. I might have just brain farted.
It's detailed, so,
Yeah. But FlightWare is a commercial service, yes?
yes.
So,
So it's free to check flights, and you can see who's going where and when they're arriving and all that, but if you want to go back in time and
okay,
get that data, then it's a paid-for service.
okay.
I'll just send that to you, so.
Okay.
you have it.
Thank you. And I'm sorry if I drop sync on that one. So if we think do you think that that's the most accurate?
From what I know about the guard system, yeah, I would say out of the two. Yeah, so how the guard system works is you set up a polygon, you set up dimensions, you basically create this little box, and anything that flies into that box is gonna capture that data. Up to a certain altitude, you can do directions, you can isolate by runways, but there's just so many, there's been some reporting deficiencies that have just, not captured accurate data, so yeah, I'd say for what's available, FlightWare is a respectable leader in data.
Okay, so,
Like it goes beyond triangulation, it's a quint times 5. It's like satellite base and ground base and.
But is that for all aircraft, is that for like certain aircraft pick up like the satellites, so is that like a commercial
All
aircraft?
aircraft, I just make sure.
I just didn't know if that, I've owned aircraft too, and I don't remember any of those systems being something that have been a part of any of the, whether it's maintenance on the radios, or none of those were terms that I was familiar with.
okay.
So I did email that because I wanted to have that information, make sure I wasn't talking out of my ears. So they verified that all the movements out of this, even the Taylor craft or Piper craft, I can just pick up on that because it's still reflective to some degree, even if.
It's kind of like on boats, I guess, it shows, even if you're not registered or whatever, it shows like position of a sailing vessel. Doesn't say what it is or whatever, but
And even if
picks up on
it's, so a lot of aircraft owners requested their tail number, the registration be anonymous. So I mean, it picks up everything. You can't find the owner, but you see the aircraft.
You're making the equivalency to boats, so like AIS on boats, if everyone is required to have AIS.
Mhm.
Okay,
But you'll see boats coming across that just have a radio that's transmitting. It won't show any details about it, but it'll show it's there.
you don't have to have AIS at all, you don't have to have, and it won't show anything.
It'll show a bleep unless you don't have a radio, but it'll
No.
show. I've been tracking vessels all summer.
If you're not transmitting,
Yeah, they're transmitting, right?
But you're still giving a signal, a reflective signal of some sort if you want a radar, for example.
If you're on radar, but the AIS, you have to actively decide you're going to transmit, and if you don't show up on AIS. You might show up on radar, but you don't show up on AIS.
So it's going up on the frequency.
It's going out on a VHF frequency. Okay, so let me see if I'm getting this right. I think the general consensus is that counting enplanements or boardings is almost useless. Is that what I'm hearing?
Because a general trend on airport usage for people, but not for traffic.
It also, it doesn't really add up because if there's any gaps, the whole thing, even in terms of trend, doesn't make sense. So because we don't know where the gaps are, I mean, we're looking at this and saying, okay, why does Penobscot Island Air stop right there? That stopping there makes it look like there's a spike that starts at that point. But because we don't know, we would have to have absolutely full data across the board. And I would call this RKD boardings corrupted because if it started in individual airlines and then got summarized and summarized and summarized, we don't know what it's summary of and what it is a summary of.
Yeah, Cape Air kept very good, and it's probably, I guess Cape Air on there? Oh, so
Cape
there's
Air's
Rockland, so Rocky Stanger, the old station manager for Colgate, he's been here for at least 40 years, so he was most of the airlines. And he kept detailed records for every airline, he started in 1985, that's why this here starts in 1985. It's because his handwritten,
Which is, okay.
the handwritten one was his records over his entire career, so that was for each airline, but I don't know how it's, Rockland Boardings, I think that was all of those other airlines, so I don't know where the,
So if you don't
Telford
know,
was a separate, so Telford's not a commercial, wasn't a commercial operator, it's an FBO. So it wasn't an airline that I'm aware of.
Were any of the applications for federal funding, whatever that was, whatever, with AIP or CARES, whatever that, was any of that reliant or depending on employment data?
No.
I don't feel like.
wait a second. You said no. The data you put in the airport put in the last master plan was the RKD, the Rockland Boardings, that blue line with the orange line, Telford, added to it. That was the data that was used in.
Well, last master plan was like 20 years ago. Was it
14,
2014?
wasn't it 2014?
2015.
10 years
It's
ago.
2015.
10 years.
Right, but that section
And
right
that's the
there.
framework for, yeah.
That's-
We didn't put in applications, like, so in my experience, that's not something that, so that built the baseline, like Warren's saying, for the demand for that stuff, but any applications that you put in,
I think that's a really fine point. The FAA is under the impression that that represents the increased usage of the airport. And that is the data that was provided by the airport to the county and the county to the FAA to say, look at this, we have massive increases in the use of the airport. It just looks like you're skyrocketing.
They're troubling figures.
Yeah, well, that's what was submitted in 2015 master plan. So that looks like, whoa, look at that. We're just going to town here. And just as a stupid aside, also tended to pick the right points to make it look even better. But, so, yes, the FAA is, maybe it wasn't in an application, but it was in the information that they were given as associated with why your master plan makes sense, why the master plan makes sense. I'm trying to figure out the way to summarize it. You keep saying variations on what to me sounds like you can't really trust that data, and then when I say you can't trust that data, you say no, you can. But we have three different sets of data, if I understand this right. The enplanements and boardings is the least valid. Guard is more valid, but still off. And the flight aware, my brain's not functioning. The flight aware is the most accurate. Is that,
Yes,
do you agree with that statement? But flight aware costs money to get.
yes.
May I ask how much?
That information costs 2,000 and change.
So you have to ask, you don't like get a subscription and it stays?
If you're a business, then you can justify doing that on a routine, regular basis, but to get like a go into history and have a window of time. So, you know, if I was an FBO, then I would pay a membership fee and it would make more sense over the course of the year.
I'm trying to think, could the town in some way make it work?
I've been talking about this and telling people about this since 2021. And because we were seeing the data, that's why I can't unsee a thing after that. I just can't pretend
Right.
away. So it's been there. This is before. So no, I don't see the town, just based on the actions or inactions of the town since during that whole time, that they would, you know, justify that expenditure. I think it's important to get 15, 16, and 17 because that's also what those applications were based on, and I feel like that's just more of a justifiable proof of positive black and white of that whole window of time that was completely fudged. I don't know what the FAA wants to do with that, but it's falsified data. And by making an airport able to support greater capacity is increased by improving infrastructure. That's what they've been doing this entire time with the money that they got
Right.
with fake numbers.
So we're going into the next master plan in the next year. How much, what would make sense for, over the last 10 years, over the last 20 years, for the master plan? I mean, I think the last one, crap, I think they went back to 1983.
For what?
The data they put in the master plan. But it would seem that 10 years would be irrational.
But that creates a greater polarity, but going that far back, you see what the numbers were or.
Oh, right, yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like, wow.
Yes,
look
no,
how much
I agree with you.
conflict.
I'm trying to think what would be if we said in some fashion, and I think this is the same, from 2015 to 2025, a 10-year chunk, that would be a rational thing that you're trying to figure out what's the next 10-year chunk out, what's going to be going out. I'm not being very articulate.
No, I'm tracking, good.
Okay.
Um,
I'm trying to bound the problem, that's all.
So you feel it more, so you think it would make more sense to get the last few years as opposed to the 15, 16, 17 portion?
No, 15, 16, 17 is needed as well. I mean, I was saying,
I'll just sell my house.
no.
I'm totally motivated for the first batch, so that's.
Well, the
My
10
own
years goes
project.
back to 2015. I was actually lining this up in a way that makes sense, that agrees with you. And trying to argue that we shouldn't have to go back any further than that. If we get from 2015 through 2025, as the master plan is developed, then that should be something rational to be able to look at a 10-year slice and see what's happening.
Yes, that makes sense. Where I think that we might be wasting our time in the last couple of years is from everything we've heard, the new master plan doesn't include anything of great structural expansion. It's just more peripheral stuff. It's what I've heard, but I understand nothing's actually started yet, so.
Well, yeah, right, that's the thing. I mean, we've got a new airport manager, we've got a new county administrator, we're probably gonna get another new county administrator. We're gonna have new county commissioners. So, where it goes is gonna.
Can I help you understand where that's coming from? So the shoreline zoning ordinance we had a public hearing on this
Okay.
a few days ago, and the reason this is relatable. One of the ads in here, so there's a chart, land use chart.
Okay,
In here is projects that provide for the safety of airport operations is yes in all zones except for maritime activities.
Maritime activities?
So it is allowable in resource protection in rural residential 1 and 2, in commercial, and in recreational with planning board approval. The only place it needs planning board approval is in recreational areas. It's allowable in everything else. So that was that. Projects that provide for the safety of airport operations. So that sounds totally innocuous, but everything for the most part that they did that was expansionary was in for the sake of safety. So
Right.
it's like this magic term, it's like the slippery sliding scale.
That pendulum swung quite a ways.
Everyone has a different version of safety, and what's safe for the planes landing here today is one thing. What's safe for a bigger plane or with more passengers later, oh, well, we have to do this in order to accommodate that design, or that aircraft, or that Part 139 capacity, or excuse me, operation. So, I love
That's
you're
crazy.
over there just nodding your head, like,
That's
You're
crazy.
not-
Wow.
okay, now it gets better. So if that's there, the new manager, oh, I'm sure he's a very nice guy, so it's nothing to do with it. His last 9 years of work, aside from the 1.5 years that he was working at Augusta Regional,
In Georgia.
no, in Georgia, yes. He was an aircraft rescue and firefighter for 9 years. So this time, so he has ample experience in those operations. So with the proposed ordinance, if it passes, projects provided for the safety of airport operations, I mean, firefighting facilities certainly falls under that purview. And with that comes your Part 139. So then you have Part 139 operations, which increases all sorts of things, like as far as scheduled aircraft and unscheduled aircraft and all of the things. So these stepping stones have been lined up really perfectly, and it wasn't by accident.
Nobody wants to be 139 now.
I don't care. It's
New manager, right, you never know. But like we've talked about for years now,
You've told me
once you go away, you
That
don't
talks.
know
that talks were in action, I
Yes.
don't even know.
for,
Oh,
yes,
yeah,
for our, absolutely, yeah, but we know, nobody ever wants 139.
But the point is that it can happen.
It can,
This
yeah, 100%.
getting put together.
Yep.
So if there's anything, and the reason I'm bringing this is because this still hasn't happened, but these things are being put into effect so that it would allow it to.
Okay. But again, we're, in terms of what the master plan is calling for, I thought we were saying the master plan, we don't expect the master plan to be asking for much, but you think it's gonna be asking for.
I don't, everything I've been seeing and everything I keep hearing and things like this, it just lines it up. It's not accidental, it's not just coincidence at all. And as you mentioned before, anyone in their right mind was like, well, why would we want to target them? So that would just make us all, or,
Yeah,
say,
well, I
But
never
it's
going
not
to
for
oppose
that
the firefighting.
I'm not asking for it, I'm just asking, I'm just trying to paint a picture.
It opens doors, it opens door for military aircraft, it opens the door for all types of operations, so it's a real thing. It's a lucrative, the 139 is a lucrative, very attractive, thing for the airport. Right now in a 10-year period, we get two new pieces of equipment. That opens up to unlimited new equipment. It's like 10 pieces or something crazy. But maintaining it, the county, without solar, my understanding is there's some excise tax issues right now. There are things that are happening that the airport is not going to be as successful as they want it to be. So 139, the cost of the upkeep of the airport is very expensive. You get an inspection every year, and they come in, they need to repaint your whole runway or your whole airfield. The county doesn't have the resources that it needs to be able to the 139 will buy equipment, but it won't do a number of things. So, but anyway, it opens the door. Lauren's 100% correct that all that stuff there opens the door for.
Okay. I do feel that we've gone somewhat far afield from trying to figure out the right way to count these guys.
I thought we landed that plane.
I wasn't sure.
Isn't that like not the right, but I don't think there's a better way. That's, unfortunately.
Well, what I was trying to work my way through is back to All right, let's see if I can, let's see if I landed, if we landed the plane properly. We have three different methods. The best method is the flight aware, next is guard, worst is in plain links. Flight aware is a commercial product, it's expensive. We think that about 10 years of data would be what we would need to assess the next modernization plan. That's not what we call it.
That's
Master plan. The next master plan. But we don't have the money in the town to do that. The master plan is not going to be finished in 2025 under any circumstances, is it?
No, starts.
It starts in 2025. So in 2025, we could ask because we're too late for this town meeting, we could ask for the money from the town to get the data, so that you can not pull this out of pocket.
You could ask, I have nothing to base on that they would approve.
Well, maybe not.
But sure.
Maybe not,
You can't-
maybe they say no,
No,
but at
that's-
least we've teed it up for them in a very clear,
Yes.
can I ask you to get me a dollar figure on what 10 years of data would cost?
We already have most of it, don't you?
I have 3 years.
Oh, yeah, that's 2,000, 3 years.
Right, so if you can tell me what 10 years of
No,
data
they'll
would
give
cost,
me a quote and then.
And
they
then
might do something.
I'll talk to the town and figure out how to do it.
You can also have this.
Okay. And okay, so yes, the plane is landed, I just wasn't sure. Not an expression I use. And as I mentioned in an email, I do have something else I need to get to, so can we not open up any
Sure.
new debates? I tried to move for this meeting the date around, in order to make sure that Ian could get here, but to get Ian here meant that Lauren couldn't be here. And I am just never going to say I'm gonna make, preference for one
Sure.
member over another. So I'm gonna say it or suggest that we go with the same Thursday, third Thursday of September, which is what, the 19th.
The nice thing is, right now, is that the committee is able to address projections that the consultant will supply in the next master plan.
Well, that's what,
We can call their bluff.
that's what I'm trying to set us up to do. So that we're proactive instead of reactive, so that we know what, there's several issues we need to be able to sort through, that's one of them.
Because then when you get into the public comment section, the public hearings,
Right.
justify your numbers.
Yeah.
Here's the guard data, here's the flight aware numbers. How are you saying that we're gonna grow 200%?
And that is exactly what I'm hoping we can make happen.
Good.
Does that make sense across the board?
I'm gonna give this to you also.
Okay, thank you.
It's on 139.
Okay. All right. Motion to adjourn,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Then adjourned. Thank you.
Wait, is that a quorum?
Yes, it was. We had a quorum. 3 is a quorum.
I feel better.
Thank you.